So Emeka enjoys like writing is just like, I would say, is it first nature or second?
Second
or
nature.
Second nature.
My first nature is food.
Well, there you go.
I actually have
And
a
he's
quote.
a comedian as well.
I actually have a
tell.
quote on food.
Yeah.
I don't go to a lot of places that people want me to be. The precaution I have for attending events is if there's food. Because
sure?
my Bible says,
Yeah.
the one I read, it says, wherever two or three are gathered in the name of food, I have to be there.
I'm telling you, this is going to be a fun one. So his second nature is writing. So tell us how you started cultivating this hobby. It's now a hobby to you,
Yes,
right?
it
Because
is.
you enjoy doing it. It's not like work for you. When that started, and highlight some of the writings that you were doing. Like I know you have a couple groups and you blog and all of that. So just highlight some of that work that you're doing.
When I got out from the university, I went to serve in Nigeria. It's called NYSC. I came out, there was this man who used to be a very good friend of my dad. His name is Gozia Nyachebele. He's late now. At the time, it was 2004, I think. He was running a pharmaceutical company. He's a pharmacist, first class he did in the university. And, you know, naturally, I went there, I applied, and he hired me. So the way he ran his company was that every day, I was the microbiologist. I had to write a report of what I did in my lab. Every day you have to write a report and you have to give him. And it happened that he read all of those reports. How do I know he read them? Because he would call you and ask certain questions. So I was green. I didn't know very much. He was at the time in the state civil service.
Okay.
He eventually rose to director in pharmaceutical services in the Anambra state government at the time. But, you know, while he was rising, so he understood administration to a T. So he would read all these reports and he would have questions. So this man will call you in the middle of the night.
Wow, serious?
And be like, yeah, this line that you wrote, what does it mean? When you saw this, what did you do? Things like that. You know, it was annoying, naturally. Why wouldn't you let me sleep? I complained to him and he said, if you don't want me to call you in the middle of the night, write reports that give me answers.
Wow, there you go.
It was annoying, really.
Yeah.
But I sat down and I'm like, this is a challenge. I'm going to learn how to write reports that will make him not call me in the night. It took a while. 1-2 years later, he stopped calling. He wasn't calling me anymore. And I'm like, yes. In those, writing every day, writing a descriptive report every day for 2 years, it kind of starts to set you on a certain path.
Right.
Now, what happened was that he kind of started to see the skill that I have. So he would ask me to write, you know, abstract things. Oh, I have this speech that I want to go and give. Sit down. He would tell me, you know, the points that he has, but I don't have the time. I'm a very busy man. And I would write these speeches. He would, you know, correct them. He was better than me in English. He was a brilliant man. He would sit down, correct them, make corrections, and give them to me to type. While I typed them, I kind of started to see how he wrote things, the way he thought. And I enjoyed it. He wasn't the best of men, but he was an excellent teacher if you bend down to learn.
Right.
So I learned under him. For 6 years I did this. So, you know, that kind of pushed me into writing. Before I left this company, I wrote a book compiling text messages. That was one of the first things I wrote. I called it, I think, Sweet Dreams or something like that. It was a book of text when mobile phones were still just a thing. And people needed, you know, a push on what to write for certain occasions. So that's kind of how I got into writing. It never left me. Because of that experience, even till today, wherever I am, there has to be a pen, there has to be a note. I don't have one right now because I have my phone, which is a note, and it has a pen. So ideas come here and there. You don't know when they will.
Right.
You better be prepared to write them down because the faintest ink is better than the sharpest memory.
Also,
So that's kind of how I
they got
found
into
myself
it.
being a writer.
So Nnaemeka does a lot of writing on WhatsApp groups, sports.
Yeah.
You
Politics.
blog about politics, which we're not gonna go into here.
To spoil the mood.
And so I like the idea. You said bending down to learn. So like you seize this opportunity. You enjoyed that art from your mentor, I would say.
Yeah.
And then you just kept learning, and here you are now.
Yeah.
An author, and you have, something coming up in the works that we'll talk about later as well. So you do have a book you wrote a couple years ago. It's called Unleash Your Inner Kraken. So what was the point of this book? Like, what message are you trying to convey to your readers?
Well, the Kraken in the Clash of the Titans. There's a movie called The Clash of the Titans.
Right.
So I don't really remember the story, but I know that it's about Zeus and his fight with men and things like that. And he has this thing, the Kraken,
right,
which when released, it has to be given sacrifices. But then the Kraken for me is a warrior that lives inside everyone. It's as long as you're a human being who has a soul, there's a Kraken in you. You just have to find it. Unleash Your Inner Kraken was written, I wrote that book on my phone. It's amazing how much you can achieve if you put your mind to it. I wrote it on my phone while working. I was working at UPS at the time, early morning shift, and I would, just type away on my phone. After a while, it became something. It's a story of my life. If I develop it, I can make it into my biography. If I update it to include some of the things I've done after I published it. So it detailed, my story in Nigeria, when I came to Canada, the things I did, how I got to where I am. After 2 years in Canada, I was able to buy a house. I detailed the things I did to be able to do that. 1 year after I came to Canada, I went back to Nigeria. I came to Canada with $900, out of which I took $400 and bought a vehicle. So all I had after that was $500. But in 1 year after that, I was able to go to Nigeria, come back. 1 year after that, I was able to buy a house. 1 year after that, I bought a car. Every year I try to do a significant thing. So that book is something that when you read it, it kind of, lights up a fire in you. If this man can do it from nothing, I mean, I'm not anything. I don't want that to be misconstrued. I'm not anything, but I started from nothing.
Right.
I'm still a work in progress. And I know that there's, because of the place we're in, we leave a lot of things behind to come here.
True.
And then we land here like virgins, and we're like, most of us
Culture
are just
shock.
confused. There's reality hitting you. You see homeless people, you see suffering, you see pain and things like that. It's not Hollywood movies anymore.
That's
where
right.
you think abroad is all glitters,
rosy,
like it hits you, the cold comes and stuff like that. That book tells you that, you're not alone.
Right.
There's hope, there's a way, there's a method, there's a path. If you walk on it, you can. And in my experience working in Nigeria for this man who became very wealthy before he passed on, I met a lot of people who were wealthy working for him. And in that book, I detailed the things that I found them. They seemed to have the same habits. They had discipline, they had consistency. They were very habitual. They were very persistent, almost to a degree of stubbornness in the things that they wanted to do. So these are things that I picked up from them. They are things that I've used in my life. They are things that I wrote in that book, which I think that if anybody can go on Amazon and get it, if you read it, there's your life can, become. It was at the time COVID was, I think it was 2020 thereabout or 2021 that I wrote it. COVID was raging. There were a few, life lessons that I drew from COVID. With all that negativity, I still saw positives in that. That's what I put in the book.
Well, amazing. So yeah, talking about personal development, go look for that book on Amazon, and I'm sure it will inspire you. And yeah, you're not alone. That's why we're here, so we can share the stories, and that can inspire you to do your own thing.